Hi everybody, welcome to the Daily Vlog. I'm Gary.
I'm Dave.
I'm Jay.
And today's topic is canceled TV shows, canceled before their time.
Yes.
We all have those shows, especially nowadays. It seems like the networks, they take a show off the air way too early. Give me an example, Jay.
Well, my favorite canceled show is Keen Eddie.
Oh, great show.
It was
on Fox, right?
Yeah, it was eventually ended up on Fox. Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, tell me about the show.
Well, Keen Eddie, for those of you that haven't seen it, was the story of a New York detective that screwed up and ended up getting lent to Scotland Yard. And once he got over to Scotland Yard, they basically kept him there in Britain. Okay, straight detective story, right? But no, we got a love interest that isn't a love interest, which is his roommate, whose father owns his apartment, but she's not supposed to be there because she's supposed to be off at college.
Well, basically, I mean, it's really got the whole kind of a fish out of water thing. New York City detective in Scotland Yard. You know, it's British versus American culture.
Yeah, and we'll talk when we come back. I'll talk about how they screwed up putting it onto DVD.
Yeah, because so these shows they have second lives on DVD. What's your favorite canceled show?
Well, it's Carnival. It was an HBO original program.
Yeah, I saw the first season. Yeah.
And I thought it was just really fascinating. It had, first of all, it had probably what I think was one of the most authentic settings for the Depression. Every time you see any kind of Depression era anything, everybody's crispy and they've got, you know, decent clothes on, maybe a little scuff here
Orphans
and there.
that are singing.
Right.
Yeah, or something like that. I'm telling you.
Atmospherically, it
was stunning.
excellent.
Everybody definitely lived in their clothes. There was nothing really, you know, too bright and glossy about it. But on top of that, they had this whole, like, good versus evil undertow that was actually very fascinating because
didn't you think it was getting a little bit too David Lynch-ish?
Toward
at some level, but in the way that I like David Lynch. Unfortunately, they went into a second season, but you could tell if you'd seen the second season that they kind of wrapped it up real quick at the end because they knew that they were going to get canceled, and so they tried to give you some kind of closure, which is almost worse than if they had just kind of gone with what their original plan was.
Which is probably what you could say about Gary's favorite canceled show.
Which one? Well, there's a lot of them. There's
Firefly.
I don't. If you're sitting at your computer right now or your iPod, so chances are you've seen Firefly. So I won't even go into how that's the biggest crime that show was canceled. But another great one is Wonder Falls, which didn't even finish its first season, but fortunately the whole thing came out on DVD. And that was a great quirky show about a girl who started hearing voices. Things would talk to her, and it was like this greater power that was like telling her to do these things, but it was really quirky because it wouldn't just go and say like help this person. It would like tell her to do something very specific that sometimes seemed to be counter to what she should be doing, like steal this or do whatever. But she found out that if she actually just did these things, that it would end up in some weird way helping somebody or helping herself or whatever. But of course everybody thought she was crazy because she heard all these voices. It was a great show and a really quirky sense of humor. And there was, what was the other one that I was mentioning before? It was Briscoe County Jr., which I just got the DVD set. And that's just, watching that again, it's like as fresh as when it first aired in the early 90s.
Well, and to get real quickly into, Keen Eddie was released on DVD.
Yeah.
But when they released it in DVD, they screwed up a couple things. Number one was the shows weren't in order on the DVD.
No!
Oh, doesn't that infuriate you?
It does.
Okay, secondly, because they couldn't relicense the popular music that they used in the series, they had to use ersatz music in the DVD release. And so it was like, here would be this great Madness hit, that everybody loved a Madness song, and here would be this fake Madness going.
Well, that is a problem actually with a lot of DVDs, and it comes back to the RIAA being greedy and saying, hey, you didn't license these songs for DVD release, and they're doing this for old shows, newer shows and all this. So, and then they go and they say, well, this is how much it's going to cost to license it, and they would have to price the DVDs like $100 for the series. So they rework them with new songs. The consumers aren't happy because we're not getting the original music, and the RIA isn't getting any money at all because they were being.
They're just in the
they
business
hire
of
works
being
for hire
hated.
composers.
The RIA is just in the business of getting hated as much as possible.
Let's start a list on clevermedia.info of your favorite shows that got canceled before their time. and especially if they're out on DVD now, because then people can start to check them out. Maybe we'll mention a few on the show later in the week.
Yep.
All right. Bye.